Good evening, and welcome to GV Wire's Candidate Forum for Clovis Unified Area 1 seat, whether you're watching us live on Facebook or on the recorded forum. My name is Nancy Price. I cover education for GV Wire, and I'll be your moderator tonight. Before I get started, a note of disclosure. Granville Homes is a contributor to one of the candidates, and Granville's president and CEO is Darius Assemi, who is also publisher of GV Wire. However, the issues and questions I'll be raising are my own. The Area 1 seat is arguably the most competitive of the 3 Clovis Unified School Board seats up for election. The seat has been empty since trustee Susan Hatmaker resigned in January when she relocated out of the trustee area. Having no incumbent can make an elective seat mighty attractive, and this one is no exception. 4 people have thrown their hats into the ring. 3 of them are with us tonight. In alphabetical order, by their last names, they are communications consultant Samantha Bauer, realtor Joanne Burton, and nonprofit executive Clint Olivier. The 4th candidate is businessman Chuck Dermanuel, who has a family commitment tonight and is unable to attend the forum. Before we talk to the candidates, a quick review of the district. Clovis Unified isn't just confined to the Clovis city limits. It stretches across North Fresno and northeastward past Clovis into unincorporated Fresno County and southeastward towards Sanger. Area 1 is in the northwest portion of the district and is completely within the city of Fresno limits. And then some of the other areas also include some Fresno neighborhoods. Like many school boards, Clovis Unified trustees are elected at large, which means all voters in the district decide who serves in each trustee area, and not just voters who live in those trustee areas. This means candidates need to make their case to voters across the entire district. So if you're looking at that map that's on the screen right now, Area 1, you'll see the bottom is, boundary is Herndon Avenue. It goes all the way up, basically follows along the river, the Fresno County border there, heads up to Copper and then comes back down Friant Road and then cuts over on Shepherd. And so it's, looks like it's taking a bite out of Area 2 there, but that's Area 1, and that's all within the city of Fresno. So now let's move on to the questions for our candidates. And once again, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Let's start out with a question about, with Clovis expected, and I'm going to start with Samantha, so thanks Samantha, followed by Joanne and Clint. With Clovis expected to continue its rapid growth, what challenges will the school district face as it becomes bigger and more diverse? Samantha first.
Absolutely. So, managing growth is one of the biggest challenges for any organization. And for Clovis Unified in particular, that has such a strong history and a strong set of core values, it's really important as we continue to grow to hire the best and the brightest for our kids, but also that they understand where we came from and our history. That starts with Doc's charge. Clovis Unified Foundation just recently received a $4.9 million donation from Qualcomm founder, who obviously has a connection to Clovis Unified. And so the foundation is dedicating a lot of that to Doc's Leadership Academy, which is absolutely critical in helping to keep the core values of Clovis Unified. So in managing growth, it's making sure that we're hiring the best and the brightest, and we continue to stay tightly connected to our core values.
And Joanne, same question?
Well, one of the things that seems to work and is successful for Clovis historically and in general is that the areas are divided up into high school districts. So within a very large school district, we also have these smaller, more manageable sub-districts that keep that small, maybe neighborhood feeling in the schools and in the area. And I'm sure that will stay as a template for growth. So that in itself is going to help keep the Clovis character, the Clovis atmosphere, the Clovis flavor and culture that is beloved here.
Same question?
Yeah, thank you. As I've been out there campaigning and meeting with parents and meeting with people, the theme that keeps coming back over and over is communication with us, communication with parents. Parents are frustrated, even though the district does an awful lot to do outreach and make sure that parents have information, the information that they need about what the kids are learning in school and about student activities, and also access to the board, board meeting, board minutes, all those kinds of things. The thing that I keep hearing over and over is communicate with us. Communicate with us, because when we feel like we don't have the information, then we're unable to parent our kids. We're unable to let our kids know what's going on, not just at school, but also in the world. So I think that as the district grows, I think it's time to continue with good communication, but go the extra mile, do more to communicate with people as we're bringing more parents and families and grandparents into the district, folks from diverse backgrounds. Folks are frustrated because they want to hear from their district. So as we grow, continue to communicate.
All right, thank you, Clint. Next question: that Clovis Unified trustees are elected at large instead of being elected by area. Many other school districts within this area, some of them chose to move to by area. Some of them were forced to because of lawsuits. The point of by area election is that communities have a better chance of being represented, especially minority communities. But Clovis has maintained the at-large election of its trustees. So should Clovis Unified elections remain at large, or should they change to by area? And Joanne, I'm going to start with you with that question, please.
Well, I wish that I had a history of doing both an area election and at large, which is what we have right now. However, I don't have the crystal ball to know which way is better. It's, of course, much more challenging for the candidates to cover 199 square miles of Clovis Unified, even though when I go to visit the schools and meet the parents, I'm very positively received, and I love exploring all the different areas. But it makes an incredible challenge. Think of the budget for our campaign as far as signs and everything, getting the word out, just makes it a lot more challenging. But at the end of the day, as a trustee, and when we sit on that seat, we are making decisions on policy for the good of the entire district, not just our area. So yeah, that could be discussed probably, for hours, whether what is best, and perhaps that will be revisited by the next election. Who knows?
Thank you, Joanne. And Clint, same question.
Yeah, it's something I've done a few times before. I spent 8 years on the Fresno City Council. I had the opportunity to draw and adopt district lines for the city. So I have some experience with that. We also took up the topic of whether we should move to 7 city council members, which goodness knows we're 9, which goodness knows we're okay with 7 over there in Fresno. So it's a debate that I'm used to having. In terms of serving disadvantaged communities, 49% of Clovis Unified students come from socioeconomically disadvantaged households. And somehow we are able to have test scores that are nearly 20% over the state average. That means that Clovis is doing something right. Clovis is educating kids, and they're doing it well. Obviously, we have to keep the pedal to the metal. We have to keep going on that. But in terms of drawing district lines, it seems to be working with the system that we have, running at large, and then when you're elected, going into to represent a district. So again, it's something that I have a little bit of experience with, and applying what I know in terms of district boundaries, applying that to Clovis Unified. I think the system, the way it is serving students and parents well.
All right, thanks, Clint. And Samantha, same question.
Well, selfishly, as a candidate, I've been averaging about 8 miles a week walking the neighborhoods. It is quite a large district, obviously, to introduce yourself to. I too have experience with this. In Fresno Unified, they did go from at-large election to by area. We were legally challenged. The school district was. So there are some legalities here to make sure that those that are voting us in are, the people that we're representing actually have a voice in voting us in. However, what I will say on that point, Clovis Unified their governing board is very unified. In fact, during the pandemic, I got responses from my representative, a representative outside of my area, I should say. So two of the school board members that didn't necessarily represent me responded and engaged. And I think having access to an entire governing board works in Clovis Unified. So it's certainly something that we need to look at. There are some legalities around there, but it is a model that serves us well in continuing to remain unified as a school district and as a governing board.
Thank you, Samantha. My next question is, if elected, what can families and taxpayers expect you to lead your fellow trustees in getting done to improve Clovis Unified? What will be your top priorities that you will want to accomplish? And Clint, we'll start with you with that question.
I think the most important thing that the next trustee can do in this area is to be vigilant with Sacramento and Sacramento mandates. I think that it has been a difficult situation at times, especially when it comes to how parents feel. The parents packed the board meetings during the pandemic. Parents felt left out. Parents felt angry. Parents felt disenfranchised. And I think that the solution that Member DeFrank came up with, which engendered mask choice. It was a policy that says, we have a policy that you have to wear a mask, but we're not going to discipline your student if he or she decides not to wear one. That's the kind of creative thinking that I appreciate very much from Clovis Unified. It's also the kind of creative thinking that I have done before as a Fresno City Council member. You have to find creative answers to problems, and standing up to Sacramento is something that I will do when I'm elected to be the Area 1 trustee. I'm also running to offer better communication to parents, to be available 24/7. I give out my cell phone number. Again, some of that frustration that we've seen at the school board meetings, some of the frustration that I come across when I talk with parents, when I meet with parents, is that they feel like they're not getting the whole story and all the information. So I'll be a voice on the Clovis Unified School Board for that, for better communication, for better outreach with parents and better access to board members in the board process. That's something that's important to me. I also think.
Thank you.
Yes, Nancy?
Thank you, Clint.
Oh, but I have two more.
Make them very short because I need to get the other candidates.
I want to join with my my fellow trustees to help students and staff move on from the COVID pandemic. And I'm also interested in exploring ways to bring more life skills education into the curriculum.
So much. And Samantha, same question for you. I can repeat it. If you're elected, what can families and taxpayers expect you to lead your fellow trustees in getting done to improve Clovis Unified? And what will be your top priorities that you will want to accomplish?
Well, I was the first candidate to declare my candidacy back in March. So I've been at this for 8 months. And I can tell you, in talking to parents and teachers and community members, the number one priority is making sure that our kids are back on track academically. We've just seen our first round of SBAC testing, state testing, since before the pandemic. We no surprises there, but we've got a serious job to do. And parents have lots of concerns, but their number one concern is making sure that our kids are back on track and that our classroom teachers have what they need to make sure that happens. That is, I gotta tell you, that is number 1, 2, and 3 priority. So what folks can expect out of me is making sure that we're looking at best practices, new strategies, resources. What can we do? Because nothing else is more important right now than to make sure that our kids are back on track, on grade level, reading and math. Thank you.
Thanks, Samantha. And Joanne, same question.
Okay, what parents can expect from me as a trustee?
Yes.
If I understand it right. Well, I was just so dazzled by Mr. Olivier's answer, because with all the talk about communication And well, we have never seen him at a school board meeting, and this is the first public forum that he has graced us with since the beginning of the speech tour. Let's just put it that way. However, for me, I would say what you're going to get is a trustee that's not afraid to call out problems. So let's see how well Clovis Unified is doing. 2019 English proficiency, which means they meet standard or exceed standard, was 72.68%. Okay, that was pre-COVID. After COVID, we haven't had another test since spring of 2022, and the English proficiency is now down 66.2%. So I think that with a minus 6.48% drop in our proficiency in English, this is something we need to discuss and do something about. So with the other candidates basically saying everything is really good, we just have to get back to basics. Well, 2019 reflects the basics. And I say, I don't think that's good enough for our wonderful school district. I'm going to be looking for better improvements than that. Let's look at math. Math proficiency, 2019, 58.68%. At standard or exceed, 2022, 49.25%. That's a negative 9.43% drop in just grade level proficiency. So these are the kind of things I want to address, because I think these are the things that are really important to parents. They do not want our teachers and our administrators teaching CRT or teaching values that, frankly, the parents would rather teach in their own home. They want the 3 R's to go up: reading, writing, and arithmetic. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Appreciate it. All right.
Nancy, can I respond to that?
Sure. Yeah, she did mention she called you out, so go ahead, Clint.
Right. Thank you. I have been, I'm beginning my 2nd year on the school site council at my son Karsten's elementary school, which is Nelson Elementary School. So I've got a year under my belt of already working in the district, working with administrators, working with other parents and teachers to improve education. In this case, my son's education at his elementary school. And I'm a very involved parent. And I'm really proud of what I've been able to accomplish just at Nelson Elementary. And so this is the kind of energy that obviously I want to bring to the Clovis Unified Board. And I'm very proud. It sounds like a small assignment to be on a school site council, but it's not. It's important. And I applaud parents who step up across the district to take a real interest in their child's education and get stuff done at the school level. So I'm absolutely proud of the work I've done in Clovis Unified so far.
Great. All right. Thanks, Lynn. And just so that all 3 of you know, some of my other questions later on will be what your involvement with the district, with schools has been so far, what motivated you to run for office, but we'll be getting to those questions in a little while. So I have some questions now that are specific to each of the candidates. And Samantha, I'm going to start with you. Some people might argue that you're almost too much of an insider, that you had various jobs in the past with big school districts, so you understand the workings of them. You've gotten a lot of endorsements from former Clovis Unified superintendents as well as current Clovis Unified staffers. Are you too much of an insider?
Absolutely not. Makes me the most qualified candidate, quite frankly. I've got a background in public education policy that started in Sacramento. I've worked for 2 of the largest school districts in California, serving the superintendents and boards of education. So I know public education inside and out. These relationships that I waged with colleagues, actually colleagues outside of my volunteer experience. And the fact that my 2 opponents are newcomers to Clovis Unified. I've been here for over 16 years. I've worked in the classroom for 15, and I've served the district at many levels. So it actually makes me a highly qualified candidate because I understand our culture and I understand our traditions. So, whatever you want to label me, maybe an insider is equivalent to the most qualified candidate because I understand Clovis Unified.
Joanne, you didn't have a candidate statement in the voter guide. You don't have any campaign contribution reports, at least the last time I checked. Yours is a fairly low budget campaign, as opposed to the other two candidates who are here in the forum who've raised, tens of thousands of dollars. How do you expect to compete with better funded candidates for the Area 1 seat?
Well, the parents will decide. Every day I go out and meet more parents and give them my information, welcome them to email me and reach out to me, that I make myself available. So, even though I do not have children in the district, and you're right, I'm very grassroots. I'm very low budget. My lawn signs are repurposed from old lawn signs. But who doesn't love recycling? Anyway, yes, I am self-funded, so there was no need for me to report. The candidate statement had a cost of $1,320 attached to it in order to get 200 words. So I may look back and regret that I did not put a candidate statement in. However, if you're self-funded, that is a lot of money that could be used in other ways in your campaign. I don't have friends on the board such as Samantha. I don't have any big money behind me like maybe the other candidates. So this is how I'm running my campaign. But I think substance, I hope, will weed out just somebody who has a lot more money than I do.
Okay, great. Thanks, Joanne. And Clint, my question for you is that for some Clovis residents, there's no love lost for their big city neighbor to the west, and I'm referring to Fresno, city of Fresno. And I've heard this myself on occasion. There's a sort of a derogatory, oh well, our city has the brown signs, and then there's the green sign, street sign city, which of course is Fresno. You're a former Fresno city councilman. Have you encountered any anti-Fresno bias during your campaign? And if so, how did you counter it in seeking this district-wide voter support?
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. I've never encountered any anti-Fresno bias. You have to remember that Clovis Unified School District is 48% Clovis and 44% Fresno. And then the rest are outlying areas. So it's almost an even split. When it comes to educating kids, the city that they live in shouldn't matter. It's the district that they're in. And there are over 40,000 students that are very blessed to call Clovis Unified home. I live in the city of Fresno. I'm proud to have served the city of Fresno. I enjoy being in Clovis, but I haven't seen any of that kind of rivalry since I've been out on the campaign trail. People know me from my days as a journalist and my days as a Fresno City Council member, and they appreciate the work that I've done and the service that I've given to the community. And I absolutely love doing it. And I'm running for this seat from my Fresno address because I have a third grader at Nelson Elementary, and I want to be a part of his education. I'm not going to let him down, and I'm not going to let anyone else's kids down either once I'm elected.
All right, great. Thanks, Clint. So now back to the questions that I'm going to address to all three of you, and this time we'll start with Joanne. What do you see as the top 3 issues facing the district?
Well, I see through the eyes of the parents who have given me feedback, I see basically their academic excellence. The parents know that their children are behind, and they need to catch up to grade level and better, as you've seen in the report I just read a few minutes ago. That is number 1 for most parents. But number 2 is stay out of their personal life. Parents want to have the respect that we stay out of teaching over sexualized material or CRT. Parents do not want this. And I plan to fight for parents. So that's number 2. And number 3 is just giving parents the respect and the deference that they need when they come to the school board meetings, at the public forums. They have been ignored. And we need to face this, and we need to improve it. Parents are an important link to our governance, and I don't want to see that go away. I want to see that improved.
Thank you. Thanks, Joanne. Clint, same question to you.
Well, parents want to know right now if their kids are safe. So school safety is obviously one of their major concerns. Right now, Clovis Unified has 16 police officers, and they do a fantastic job. So I want to continue to fund them and support them. One of the other important issues is the issue of state mandates. Mandates coming down from electeds in Sacramento that don't know anything about Clovis or the way of life here, that pass those mandates that Clovis Unified has to jump when they do that. And going hand in hand with that is communication with parents. So parents are frustrated. They don't feel like they're being heard. Parents are frustrated. They want a board to take a critical eye with Sacramento's mandates and stand up where necessary. And so that's another pretty critical issue. Again, related to school safety and student safety. And finally, yes, reading, writing, and math. We want to see our kids recovering from COVID, and it's going to take a heavy lift. It's going to take an effort of everyone, administrators and board members and teachers and classified employees, to get our kids through, get our kids over the educational hump that they encountered when everyone's lives were disrupted by COVID. So yes, fighting and being critical of state mandates, communicating with parents, school safety, and recovery from COVID with a real solid curriculum and education in the classroom.
Great, thanks, Clint. And Samantha, same question?
Sure. Number one challenge absolutely is student achievement, getting kids back on track academically. I know I sound like a broken record, but in education, it is absolutely critical that we lean into the data and we make sure that we have the resources needed to make sure that our kids are back on track academically. Clovis Unified is one of the top performing school districts in the state of California and among the top in the nation. And we have got to get our kids back on track, and we can do it. It's not going to happen overnight, but it is absolutely the number one challenge. Number two is growth. We've got a new elementary school coming in 2024. We have another educational center, Terry Bradley Educational Center coming on. I'm the chair of the Citizens Oversight Committee. The last school bond largely will fund this next educational center. We've got some major growth that we have to manage in the southeast area of the school district. So again, with growth comes some big challenges. And number three, I agree with Mr. Olivier, safety. This is at the top of everyone's minds. This school year, the district, in concert with local law enforcement, decided to require all teachers to lock their classroom doors. That is the number one deterrent when you have an active shooter situation. No locked door has ever been compromised during an active shooter situation. Again, I'm chair of the Citizens Oversight Committee. We're looking at automatic locking door system. That is it's going to take, it's a big lift because there's, some technology that is included in that. And let me also say that we also did, the school district put together the Catapult program, which is an app-based program that provides instant communication during a crisis. In Elk Grove Unified, I was involved. I was the communications director during a school shooting situation. And I will tell you, managing communications during a crisis is very, very critical. So the fact that we have real-time communication with people who need it right now with that Catapult program, it's really important. So again, continuing to press on safety, but absolutely number one, we have got to get our kids back on track academically.
Thank you, Samantha. So my next question is that there's a budding teachers union, the Association of Clovis Educators. They've been trying to organize to represent teachers, and they're already representing school psychologists. And do you think a teachers union would be beneficial or detrimental for Clovis Unified? And Clint, I'm going to start with you on that question.
Sure. Well, depending on who you talk to, I'm a good person to work with if you're a collective bargaining unit. On the Fresno City Council, there were some of our groups that didn't like me, no matter what. And then there were some of our groups, like the police and the bus drivers, who did like me. And I think that what they would all say, if you were to ask them, is that Clint Olivier is somebody we can work with. Clint is someone who will sit down with us and talk with us and find out our concerns and be sincere about it, and try and get to a place where, hey, we can run this city. In this case, it would be a school district, hang on, by working together. The question was, you're right, there is no unit representing teachers right now in Clovis. There is the Faculty Senate. And look, I'm happy to work with our teachers. Right now, in the 2022 report, Clovis Unified School District is reporting that 85% of teachers are proud to work for CUSD. And I think that's a fantastic number. But we do have the Faculty Senate, and it could turn into a collective bargaining unit. And that decision is entirely up to the teachers. Again, 85% proud to be with Clovis Unified. If they go in that direction, I would not like to see the California Teachers Association conscripting good teachers who don't want to be a part of the California Teachers Association, coming into CUSD and conscripting people who don't want to be a part of collective bargaining. But that decision is entirely up to the teachers in Clovis Unified. And should they make the decision to go in that direction, I'll sit down and talk with them. I'll sit down and I'll work with them, because it's not about the programs. Doc Buchanan says it's not the programs, it's the people. So yes, I'll work with them. If they don't go that route, so much the better. I'll still sit down and work with them.
Same question for you, Samantha.
Yeah, so just a point of clarification, in school districts, governing board members do not sit on the bargaining teams because it's a conflict of interest. So actual school board members are not at the table negotiating that contract. So I just want to make that clarification. There's a reason why the teachers have not garnered the level of signatures that they need to bring it to a vote. The teachers that I talk to are not convinced that a collective bargaining unit would represent their views and their needs. I absolutely agree. Based on my 20 years in public education, we need to have teachers' voice heard. They are the frontline workers. They are the experts. And so as long as there's a system in place to make sure that they have a voice at the table on everything from working conditions, teachers absolutely deserve to have safe and a happy working environment. So I have worked in a school district with a teachers union, and I have worked in one without. And I will tell you, a teachers union is not necessarily a direct line to teacher satisfaction. As a school board member, I have no say in this. And I think that it's pretty revealing that we have not received, that the group has not received the level of support that they need to actually bring it to a vote, because our teachers are parents and our parents are teachers. There's a little different culture in Clovis Unified.
Thanks, Samantha. And Joanne, same question for you. Do you think a teachers union would be beneficial or detrimental for Clovis Unified?
Well, I believe in teachers having that choice. For example, my daughter is a special ed teacher up in Washington state, and she has an opt-in, opt-out policy. So it is their choice. I'm always in favor when teachers have that sort of choice. One of the other things, I would like to do some comparative studies. For example, during the COVID lockdown, where in the district where there were unions involved, did lockdowns, were schools locked down longer? Does it affect the grade standards or the learning standards to have teachers in a union. And I don't think the data has panned out for that. But the other thing is when teachers are unionized, one of the things is let's say it's harder to get rid of a bad, low performing teacher during union. So, Clovis Unified has a lot to think about as far as those teachers. If they're happy the way things are, that speaks highly for our school district.
Now, my next question is, and it kind of relates to some of the conversation that we've already been having this evening, and that is that, the schools closed because of the pandemic. There was a sense of mandates that were being handed down from Sacramento or from, even from, I guess, our own Fresno County public health folks. But if you had been on the school board in March 2020 when the pandemic broke out, would you have advocated to keep schools open or open them sooner if they had closed, even at the risk of increasing infection rates locally? And Samantha, let's go ahead and start with you on that question.
Absolutely. In fact, I got up every day and fought. I saw the impact to my two kids. I had a pandemic brat, and I'm not over it yet. She didn't get a graduation. She didn't get a prom. And my son was a freshman at the time. And I started to see the apathy set in his eyes, and it scared me. And I was a mom working from home with my kids here. I saw the pain, and we quickly, now hindsight, of course, is 2020. In that moment, nobody knew. We thought, okay, we're going to hunker down for 15 days and we're all going to, we're just going to move on with our lives. It quickly became apparent in May of 2020, we knew that our kids were going to be okay. And I will go as far, I've already gone on record saying this. What happened to our kids will go down in history as one of the biggest crimes against humanity. And we're paying for it right now. It was interesting. Recently, I had a conversation with an AP bio teacher at Clovis High School. She's taught for nearly 30 years. And she said something interesting to me. She said, we are the only species on the earth that sacrificed our young for the old. We've learned a lot, but I got to tell you, never again. Parents need to be back in the driver's seat. They need to make decisions for their kids. And we can never go back because we're still cleaning up, folks. Not only do we have an academic issue, we've got a social and behavioral issue. These kids are not available for learning because they don't even know how to play on the playground. So we've got some work to do. We've got to lean in, but we will never go back.
Samantha. Joanne, same question for you. Would you have advocated to keep schools open in March 2020 or open them sooner, even at the risk of increasing infection rates?
Well, I have to say I agree and salute everything Samantha said. I'm 100% in agreement with that. But I come from a science background. So the first thing I was always looking for is where's the science to support locking down the schools? At that time, the science said children's fatality rate from COVID is something like 0.00040 and then a number. So you have to understand that's extremely low. Children don't suffer from COVID. Children weren't dying from it. But we tortured our children. We isolated them. Depression is at an all-time high for children. These are things, these prove out what a mistake it was to lock down the schools. And I would just emphasize that there was no scientific reason to do this to our children. And I was always looking for the science and never got it.
Great, thanks, Joanne. And Clint, same question to you.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. We in California found ourselves in a bubble with the pandemic. There are places in the United States where the schools did not shut down. There are places in the world where the schools did not shut down. And so if I had been on the board at that time, I would not have supported any shutdown of our schools whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. I would have brought forward something to my colleagues and to the administration, the superintendent, and say, there are times for choosing, and there are times to stand up. And this is it. I think there's a consensus between everyone that's running for this seat. And I think there's a scientific consensus that was a mistake that we'll be paying for many years to come. Had I been on the Clovis Unified School Board, I would have said, look, this is the time, giddy up. Let's attract national attention. Let's stand up for our kids. Let's keep our schools open, and let the chips fall where they may. I think that in the situation that we had a couple of years ago that bled into 1 year and into 2 years, people were hungry for elected leaders at all levels of government to stand up and to be their voice and not to be afraid. And if in this situation, it would have been necessary to go into the court system to fight for our parents and our families and especially our children, then that's the route that I would have chosen to take.
Right, great. Thanks, Clint. That kind of leads actually into my next question, which is that school boards have become, in the last couple of years, kind of political lightning rods, not only here in Clovis, but also around the nation. And what would be your approach to dealing with parents and other community members who have different views from yours? Let's start, actually, Joanne, we'll start with you on this question.
Okay. You know, we all live in communities. We all live in communities of parents, communities of neighbors, and you have to understand, people don't see eye to eye 100%. That is not realistic. However, I would always look ahead before making a policy or a decision that's going to affect all the children and all the families. That, you know, let's look ahead at the consequences and the pros and cons of this decision and how it's going to affect everybody. You're never going to get 100%, like I said, buy-in, but as the governing board, it is beholden on us to make the best decision for the entire group, the entire district. And that's a big burden on our shoulders. I hope all the trustees take it seriously. There could be another pandemic coming down. We have the new CDC vaccine guidelines that is not standing well with parents. So how is our governing board now going to respond to some of these new laws coming down that, believe me, they're much worse than what we've already been through. So it may not be over, and we need to be prepared.
Great, thanks, Joanne. And Clint, same question to you. What would be your approach to dealing with parents and other community members who have views that are different from yours?
Well, being called out and excoriated by community members is something that I'm very used to. There were times when I was popular with folks during my 8 years on the Fresno City Council, and there were times that I was unpopular with people when I was on the Fresno City Council. But I always met with everyone. People who were angry, I'd go to their house if they invited me. People who were pleased with me, I'd go to their house. I was a city council member who made house calls. And that's not something and that is something that I want to bring with me when I'm sworn in as the next trustee in Clovis Unified School District. I give out my cell phone number. It's 313-6065, and that will ring right here. I'm always happy to talk with anyone, especially folks, parents who are concerned. And you know what? We're not always going to agree. But having that dialogue is so critical, and trying to get to common ground and trying to see eye to eye is so critical. People want to be heard. People want to be validated. And that is one of the things that I think is absolutely critical to an elected official, especially school board. I always say there's never been a worse time to run for a school board, but there's never been a better time to run for a school board. Because the challenges that the board faces, that our teachers face, that our parents are facing, that our kids are facing, this is an opportunity for all of us to get together, work together, and show how good we are in Clovis Unified. So yeah, I'm not always going, what was it, Abraham Lincoln that said you can't please all of the people all of the time. I've been in the arena. I've been on the firing line and shot at quite a bit. And you know what? Even people who were unhappy with me when I was an elected official will tell you that Clint met with us Clint listened to us, and we believe he was sincere. And that's the exact same energy and the exact same strategy that I'll bring with me when I'm sworn in as the trustee.
All right, thank you, Clint. And especially since you've just given out your cell phone number, I do hope you have your phone on mute.
Oh,
Samantha,
yes.
Same question for you. What will be your approach to dealing with parents and other community members who have different views from yours?
Well, I got to tell you, there's no better training ground than the campaign trail. So, I'm out there walking and talking and knocking, engaging in conversations. Our campaign information is out there. I respond to every email I get. I've gotten a lot of emails and a lot of serious questions. Not everyone thinks the same, right? And we are a very diverse community. And that really has laid bare during this process. In fact, I had an older gentleman yell at me and run down the street at me, waving my hand out at me. And I had to quickly assess the situation. Do I run or do I engage? And so I figured I could probably take him if I had to. But we ended up having a really great conversation. Folks that were emailing me and kind of attacking, you think you're all about this, and let me tell you, right? And Clint's right. Folks want to be heard. At the end of the day, if you keep at the center as a governing board, what's best for kids, that's it, right? But you got to allow everyone to have a voice. And that's exactly what I'll do. Parents need a voice now more than ever. Believe me, I was one of those parents. During the pandemic, people stopped taking my phone calls. They stopped returning my emails because I needed to be heard. I just needed someone to listen. We all come at everything, things at a different angle, and there's a lot of extremes right now. But everything happens here, and getting those extremes to find that common ground. And again, what's best for kids? And I will end by saying this. I did not seek political party endorsement for a reason. This is a non-partisan position for a reason. I will represent all kids and all families. Thank you.
All right, now my next series of questions are the ones that are specific to each one of you. So I'll start with a question for Clint, which is, what difficult issue that you brought to a successful resolution while on the Fresno City Council will help you improve Clovis Unified as a trustee?
It's a good question. The difficult issue was how to build a park. Martin Ray Riley Park is at Chestnut and 180 in Southeast Fresno. When I took office, it was a dirt lot. Martin Ray Riley was the guy who owned it. And when he passed away, he left that piece of property to the city of Fresno with the instructions that they must build a park. They can't use the land for anything else, and they must name it after him. When I came in, I served at the beginning of my first term during the Great Recession. This was a time when I think the city kicked tree trimming out to a 30-year schedule when they used to trim every couple of years. We were in dire straits. We had a lot of trouble delivering basic services in the city of Fresno. So how to build this park? How to build a park? We've heard over and over and over how Fresno is so low on park space, and folks in socioeconomically disadvantaged areas use parks more, but there are less of them. We heard it over and over. So I wanted to move the needle in my district. I had a piece of free land that the taxpayers didn't pay for. So what did I do? Well, there was a state funding pot. And the first time the city of Fresno went out, they were denied. They applied for a grant, they didn't get it. So when I got in there, I thought, well, here's what we're going to do. I used some of my district infrastructure money and hired the top grant writer in the state of California. And we went out for that grant and we got it. I was able, working with my colleagues and Mayor Ashley Swearingen, all together, I was able to build consensus for, if you're up in the Northwest, do you really care if a small dirt lot gets turned into a park at a location far from your district? So sometimes they didn't. So I had to build consensus from my colleagues on the city council and the administration. to get that done for my constituents. It took a long time, but in the end, it was unanimous. All my council colleagues voted for it. The administration went along with it, and they built it. And we did it without using any local taxpayer money, with donated land and a grant from the state of California. It's the thing I'm most proud of all the stuff I did on the city council. You have to be creative when you're in elected office. You have to be smart. You have to think on your feet. You have to be creative. And that's something that I did over and over as a member of the Fresno City Council. Now I have skin in the game. I've got an 8-year-old son in 3rd grade in Clovis Unified. You bet your butt I'm going to be creative when I go to work on the board in Clovis Unified.
Great. Thank you, Clint. Thanks for that. Samantha, one of your campaign slogans is getting back to basics. How has Clovis Unified gotten away from basics, and what steps do you think need to be taken to get Clovis back to basics?
So since I declared my candidacy back in March, I've spent 8 months talking to, like I said, teachers, parents, community members. And the number one thing I kept on getting back was, all this noise in the system, right? Everything became highly politicized. And so everyone responded to this concept of, why don't we just focus on student learning? Isn't that what we're here to do? And so when I say back to basics, it is making sure that our kids are back on track in the classroom. And that's just the reading, the writing, the math, right? It's that basic. But also back to basics means we've got to reteach our kids how to behave. After the pandemic, our kids don't know how to interact. They don't know how to be in a classroom. They don't know how to contribute. So back to basics for me also means character education, teaching our kids to be solid citizens. What does it mean? Teaching them that they're connected to something larger than themselves. After all of this isolation, you are actually part of a community, and you have a personal responsibility to contribute to the learning environment in your classroom, to contribute to your school, and to contribute to your community. So we have all experienced some form of trauma after the pandemic. And so now we're all healing, and we got it. And so for me, I got to tell you, the back to basics was very organic. It came out naturally when I started talking to parents and teachers. So that's what I mean with back to basics.
Okay.
Student learning and making sure our kids are good citizens and know how to contribute to our community.
Great. Thank you so much. And Joanne, you said, and I heard this at the other candidate forum, you said you've been endorsed by No Left Turn in Education. And its website contains the following. Unfortunately, all too often words such as diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice, systemic racism, human rights education, and health education concealed an aggressive, radical, totalitarian ideology. Do you agree with No Left Turn that radicals are attempting to take over schools with a totalitarian ideology? And have you seen evidence of that in Clovis Unified?
Well, I think these days it would be hard to deny that there is this influence that primarily comes not from within our school district. It comes from Sacramento. And there are doctrines from there that they are seeping into Clovis Unified. And yes, we have seen inappropriate books in the libraries. We've had parents come to me and actually say their little gal, a 1st grader, fell on the playground, hit her head on the bar, ended up in the nurse's station. Of course, her parents were called. The dad came in, and he asked to see the report, just innocently, because when you question a 6-year-old, you're not always sure you're going to get the facts the way an adult would like to get the facts. So after reading the nurse's report, she wrote it down. They fell down in the playground, and he asked, "Well, I thought there was just my daughter involved. Were there other children involved?" He goes, "No, just her." And he goes, "Well, why did you use they?" And she said, "Well, I didn't know what pronoun to use for your daughter." Okay, that's just one of many examples. And if you say that isn't part of some program not from within, but some there is definitely an agenda, and that is coming into the school, and denying it is not going to help. We need to have an awareness. We need to have open communication with their parents so that they can bring concerns such as this to the school board. And it wouldn't do any good. I don't believe the incoming trustees have any, any compunction to ignore this. But I'm not sure that the level of awareness is where it should be in the current school board.
I'm going to ask one more question of everybody, and then we'll have our time for our closing statements from the candidates. So the question is, and sorry, I've just lost track of what order I'm in. So I guess Joanne just ended. Does that mean Clint goes next? I'm sorry, I'm very confused.
I'll go. I'll take the pressure off you, Nancy.
Okay, that's great. How has your life prepared you to serve on the Clovis Unified Board of Trustees?
I'm a former United States Marine. As a teenager, I decided that I wanted to serve my country and serve my neighbors. So I joined the toughest branch of the armed forces. I joined the Marine Corps Reserve, and I served in that capacity. So at a very early age, my dad was a Vietnam vet. My grandfather was torpedoed twice during the Second World War. It was instilled in me as a child that I am blessed to have been born and grown up in the greatest country in the world, and that I had better give back. I served in the Marine Corps. I served as a journalist, investigative journalist, rooting out corruption and rooting out shadiness, not just in government agencies, but out there in the private sector as well. That's service. You don't make an awful lot of money as a television journalist, as a newspaper journalist. I did both of them and spent my entire career doing that for service, to give back to the country and the community that gave me so much. And then from television, from being a journalist, I ran for public office. Again, it shouldn't be a place to feather your nest and get rich. And it certainly wasn't for me. It was about service. And I did a great job representing 75,000 of my neighbors at Fresno City Hall during the worst economy that the city had ever been through since the Great Depression. I worked as part of a team that saved the city from bankruptcy because we were teetering on the edge of it. I worked really hard. And now I'm in the private sector and I'm enjoying it. I run a nonprofit that's a government advocacy, a pro-business advocacy group. And I love it. It allows me to do what I've always done in my life, which is stand up and provide a voice for people who may not have that voice. I've spent my entire life in service to others. I've got all kinds of experience meeting and talking with and sitting down with people from all walks of life. I can do it in 2 different languages. So I thank you for your question. What prepares me for my time on the school board, besides being a parent of 2 little ones who are going to be in Clovis Unified until 2030, is a life of service. And I'm very excited to take the skills that I have learned as someone who spent a life in service and someone who is spending a life in service to my children, to Clovis Unified School Board.
Question for you, Samantha. How has your life prepared you for serving on the Clovis Unified School Board?
So obviously I kind of hit on my background in public education policy. I obviously know public education inside and out professionally, but more important than that, this is my opportunity to give back. Both of my kids have benefited greatly from Clovis Unified, and it's my turn to give back. I know what good governance looks like. I've worked in two of the largest school districts in the state of California. Good school districts, good organizations have good governing boards who understand their role in governing. And that's just it. It's governing, it's not management. It's the what, it's not the how. And when you have a strong governance team, it allows the school district to continue to improve. And I believe that not only my professional background, but the fact that I know Clovis Unified culture inside and out would serve me well. I go to the school board meetings. I go to them regularly, so I know how they function, and I'm very familiar with the work of the board in their giving direction and vision for the school district. It's my time to serve, and so I'm ready to step up and serve my community. It's not about my kids; it's about my community. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Samantha. And Joanne, same question for you. How's your life prepared you for serving on the Clovis Unified School Board?
Well, I would say 6 months ago, I never expected that I would be running for a public office, period. However, I think the two things that drive me at this point in my life is I had an elderly aunt I was very close to, and she always said, to whom much is given, much is expected. So whenever I was blessed with a good life, I felt it was my duty to give back in some way. So my background in that respect was I was a very active parent volunteer. My children did not grow up in Clovis Unified. They grew up in a typical school district where the campuses themselves were very run down and very much in need of improvements. So I was part of a handful of parents who jumped in and did $1 million renovation to the sports field at the high school. And then that steamrolled into passing a $25 million school bond, the first in the history of that county, to go ahead and further improve and repair the campuses in the area. And so I come from a very active volunteer community service perspective. It's just something I've always done. And at this stage of my life, being a grandmother, legacy is very important. What are we leaving our children? I'm very concerned about that.
That you're very moved by that too, so you have a lot of passion. Yeah. All right, now we're running a little overly long, so I'm going to be kind of strict about the 2-minute limit for your closing statements. I won't cut your audio, but just try to hold it to 2 minutes, and go ahead and take 2 minutes to talk about whatever you want to talk about in your closing statement. Samantha, we'll go ahead and start with you.
So I am the candidate with the knowledge, the experience, and the passion to serve our kids and our community in Clovis Unified. I know public education inside and out. Again, I've worked in public education policy in Sacramento. I've worked for the 2 of the largest school districts in California, serving the superintendents and the boards of education. But more important, I know Clovis Unified. I've been a proud parent and volunteer in Clovis Unified for 15 years. I know the culture and I know the traditions. I was first to declare my candidacy back in March, as I've said. So I've spent the last 8 months talking to folks and having them inform my campaign. One thing that continues to emerge is this concept of back to basics, making sure that our kids are on track academically. And I already hit on this before, but back to basics also means making sure that our kids understand their responsibility in contributing to a positive learning environment in their classroom, in their school, and in our community. I've walked many neighborhoods. I've averaged about 8 miles a week. And I can tell you that we all want the same things. Everyone wants their kids to succeed. So Clovis Unified is a beacon for public education, not only in the state of California, but in the nation. And I feel very strongly about this. We need to get public education right, and Clovis Unified has. And I will make sure that stays true. We have to protect our strong neighborhood schools, because without public education, there is no America. We have to fight, and we have to make sure that we have strong neighborhood schools that deliver the kind of education that our kids and our community deserves. I am the candidate that has the knowledge, experience, and passion to serve the families and students of Clovis Unified. Thank you.
And Clint, I'm going to move to you with the same question, or for your closing statement. So if you could go ahead.
Yeah, Nancy, I wanted to thank you for being a great moderator. I wanted to thank GV Wire for hosting the event. I wanted to thank Samantha, and I want to thank Joanne for showing up. I think it's been a great discussion tonight, but the question is, who should go? And that candidate is me. You know me. I've been around this community, working in the trenches in this community for the past 17 years, whether it's been in your homes on a nightly basis, bringing you the news, or whether it's been on the Fresno City Council, fighting for limited government, common sense government, fighting to get things done for a district that had been left behind for decades. And I was successful at it. I don't run from my party affiliation. I'm a Republican, and I'm very proud to be endorsed by the Fresno County Republican Central Committee. They spoke up and they spoke boldly and said, we know Clint, and Clint is going to do a great job for kids in Clovis, his own kids and your kids. And so I'm proud of that endorsement. Let me share a couple more. Supervisor Steve Brandow is an endorser. Clovis Councilmember Drew Bessinger is an endorser. Congresswoman Connie Conway supports me for Clovis Unified. Former Fresno Mayor Lee Brand, my dear friend and mentor, supports me for Clovis Unified. City Council Member Mike Carbasi is a Democrat. He supports me for Clovis Unified. And Fresno County Sheriff Margaret Mims, before she leaves office, has endorsed me as one of the final candidates that she is supporting for Clovis Unified School District. Why do these community leaders, these fantastic people who we all know and appreciate their hard work, why do they support me? Because they know me, because they know I work hard, because they know I get things done. I have a son, he's 8 years old. He's in the 3rd grade at Nelson Elementary, and he's gonna go to Kastner, and he's gonna go to Clovis West. And when he's in 6th grade, I'll have another one starting in kindergarten. So no, I'm not an education professional. I am a concerned parent who won't let my kids down as they begin this journey. And I absolutely won't let your kids down. And it would be an honor to me. And I would humbly ask you for your vote on election day.
Thanks, Clint. And Joanne, your closing statement?
Yes, okay. Well, I'm a realtor and a grandmother. I'm California born and raised. Having lived all over the state, I can honestly say that you will not find more beautiful school campuses anywhere in the Golden State. But after the 2020 election, I became concerned about where our country was heading. I realized our schools hold the future for our country, so I began attending our local school board meetings. And during the mandates and the lockdowns, I witnessed the Clovis School Board avoiding the parents who wanted to speak at the public forums. And often they canceled the public forum. That shocked and infuriated me to see parents not treated with the respect that they deserve. As a school board's responsibility is to represent the interests of the parents and govern to reflect the values of their families. The current board does not govern in consideration to the parents they represent. So I am running for Clovis Unified School District trustee to be a champion for parental representation, to focus on achieving excellence in the 3 R's, because just being better than Fresno Unified is not a high enough standard for me or the parents. I want to audit the curriculum from inappropriate CRT or overly sexualized material and reflect transparency in what our children are being taught in the classroom. I believe all problems need to be put out in the open and solutions found so that the educational experience at Clovis Unified reflects the beauty of our campuses. The other 3 candidates do not attend school board meetings, and a vote for any of them, simply put, is a vote for more of the same. A vote for me is a vote for your family, and parents, let's take our control of our school board back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanne. And thanks to the candidates for your very thoughtful answers tonight at our forum, and also to those who have been watching our forum. And voters, if you haven't already received your ballot in the mail, and you should have by now, there's still time to get one from the county elections office. And if you have your ballot, you have until November 8th to Make sure you fill it out, whether you vote in person, whether you vote by mail, or whether you use a drop box. Your vote is important. These candidates will continue to go out and be seeking your vote. So you have a few days, if you haven't yet voted, to make your decision. But it's important to vote so democracy will continue. So good luck, candidates, and thanks again for participating in our forum. Good night.